Hello, and welcome back to the Electric Art Podcast. On today's episode, I'm joined by the brilliant Ulrich Schrauth. Ulrich is a curator, an artist, and creative director in the field of immersive technology. He is the immersive program lead for the British Film Institute, the BFI, and the London Film Festival. And recently, he was appointed artistic director for the new UBS Digital Art Museum in Hamburg, which will open with a major teamLab exhibition in summer 2025. So here we go, and I hope you enjoy my chat with Ulrich. Hello, Ulrich, and a big welcome to the Electric Art Podcast. Great to have you.
Thank you so much, Jesse. Glad to be here.
Ulrich, you are a man with many virtual hats. You're a curator, you're a creative director, you're an artist, from festivals to theatre to exhibitions. Could you tell me what drew you to art? When was that first encounter with immersive technology?
Interesting questions. So my background is actually not in technology, not in film. It is actually in theater and performance. So I'm a musical theater performer. I did things like Mamma Mia, Dirty Dancing, all of these things. But then I also studied cultural management and wrote my thesis on one of the biggest theaters in Germany. And they suddenly offered me a job. So I thought, oops, let's try something new. So I was artistic directing theater, went on to work for Sydney Festival, World Theatre Festival. Sort of the festival and cross-genre has always been my background. So different disciplines from performance, also design, exhibition, art. And while I was doing these festivals, I was so interested in immersive art, but not from a technology background, but more looking at how do you draw audiences into a piece of work? How do you engage with audiences differently than in the normal canon? And so I saw a few things back then, probably more in VR. It's like 8-9 years ago. It's like ages ago. And I was so interested and intrigued by this new art form evolving. I had the feeling there's really a new art form that is informed by many different genres, many different disciplines. And I found this so interesting. And I had the feeling there was no real space that actually exhibited that work back then. A lot of this was, I don't know, hidden in the basement at some conference, or it was behind a black curtain at an art show or something. So I thought, okay, why don't we have a festival that's really focusing on the artistic side of things and surfacing new artists working in these new forms? And so I founded my own festival in Hamburg, VRHAM Festival. And that was the start for all of this.
Brilliant. I wanted to talk more about how you curate immersive exhibitions, how you're hands-on with immersive technology. What comes first in your planning? Is it audience first? Do you think about the audience and their expectations of what this experience is? Or is it actually the artwork and the artist that comes first? Or both?
From the get-go, when I started my festival, I've always been very much about the convergence between the physical and the virtual work. I always built these set designs, had sort of haptic parts of it, because I strongly believe for an exhibition that meaningfully engages with an audience, you need kind of a physical interaction. You need something that takes the experience to another level. And I've seen so many beautiful works really looking into this. And so this is something that is very core to my artistic practice as a curator. Asking about sort of the artwork versus the visitor experience, I think I'm a curator. I'm really looking at audiences. I want to engage new audiences with the works. I want for them to have a really immersive feeling. So all of my exhibitions really try to create a sense of, I don't know, wonder or a new experience, or like a Gesamtkunstwerk kind of thing, that you really dive into a new world and experience with all your senses. But at the same time, the integrity of the artwork is absolutely core to me. So death comes first, but for me, this is not a contradiction to the audience. So I'm talking to the artist, thinking about what's the best way to engage an audience with the work. Is there anything meaningful that we can add to the proposition? So I would think both of those things are really, really core to what I'm trying to do and what I try to achieve, and what I think we as the industry need to achieve, because otherwise our audience can't really engage with those works. It's still new to so many of them. We keep forgetting. But so it's really, really about the audience journey, but with the integrity of the artwork at the core.
Just going back to the audience journey, for you, where does your curation start? Does it start from the website? Does it start from the physical space when you walk into the installation or the exhibition, or does it start when you put a headset on, for example? Where does it start?
For me, it starts with the first interaction that the audience has with the program. It could be a website, it could be social media, it could be radio or podcast. So always trying to convey the message that I want to bring across with this specific exhibition. And these can be very different things. So if I curate an institutional show, like I've just been here at the Hamburger Kunsthalle, it is a very different engagement, because also the audience is very different. We have to bring them or sort of pick them up at a different spot. If I curate for a film festival, there's a different audience, there's a different expectation. What I've started to do more and more, and what I'm very interested in, is to do more thematically focused exhibitions, to really sort of curate around a theme or a social or sort of a personal question, and that then gives another interaction for the audience. So to your question, when does it start? I think it starts with the first encounter that you have, but it definitely starts the moment you enter the physical space. At that moment, we need to be super careful and super explicit about the audience journey in terms of front of house, the visitor guidance, image, and things like how do the vigilators or the hosts engage with them? How do you make it as accessible and as easy for audiences to engage with the works as possible? So,
I love the way this speaks to your background in performance and theatre as well. I can really see that coming through the way you're speaking here. Just speaking more to you as a curator, what's your personal approach to working closely with artists that are using immersive technology? And what are the challenges, may I ask, that you've come up against? Because it's technology at the end of the day, there must be some challenges, some issues there that you've encountered.
I mean, I think working closely with the artists and trying to be as true to their original vision as possible is very central to me. But sometimes you have, as you say, you have challenges. Sometimes the setup is very complicated. You don't have the means or you don't have the space to bring it. So then you have to be super creative and think about different ways to still convey the same message. For me, it's very important that artists get the space to showcase the work or also to have a say in it. But still, I think I have a very strong vision as a curator as to how I want the different works in the exhibition to interact with each other. So sometimes there's a little struggle, or you have to have discussions with different artists and think about, okay, what's the best way to present it that it still has this overarching feel for an audience, and it's not only about this one work. Especially if I do a group show. Obviously, if you have a solo show, that's a very different beast. I mean, the challenge is obviously very much about sort of numbers, especially if it's a headset-based work. How do I get the audiences through? How do I make the best and most seamless audience journey? Then really to bring across that it's not about the novelty of the technology, but it's really about the artist's expression and their vision. And to make that very clear in the copy, in all of the texts, also in visual material, that people really understand it's not only about donning on a headset or having an iPad at the hand for augmented reality or something. It's really about an artist's vision. And if we manage to do that, that is, I think, what I'm set out to do.
Oh, that's beautifully put. Could you tell me more about specific artwork, just going into the art itself, or an immersive experience, whether it's something you've curated or been involved in, or that you've gone to as a member of the public, that's really moved you emotionally and really pulled you in. Could you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, one thing that I just recently curated was a big exhibition, a solo exhibition at the Hamburger Kunsthalle, which is the main museum in Hamburg. I commissioned the artist Jakob Kudstensen, the Danish German artist, and we worked on this for almost 2 years. So it's a huge show and is using sort of screen-based technology, but at the same time, it is all done in a game engine, and it's set across 2 floors at the exhibition. So everything is interconnected. The sound, the visuals, the lighting, and it's truly immersive without you having to sort of engage with the technology directly. It also uses sort of haptic glass lamps, sonic sound, ambisonic sound, etc. And it was very, very moving to see, especially when we opened the exhibition, how blown away the audience was by the immersive feeling, by the visuals, but at the same time, they really understood what this exhibition is about. It's very much about ecology, sort of biospheres and how they interact with each other. So that was really, really interesting. And it was a great experience also to work with this artist because he had a very clear vision on what he wanted to achieve. Another thing which is very different maybe to that one is one that I'm exec producing for the BFI Film Fund for the Marshmallow Laser Feast Collective, which is going to be Sweet Dreams. That's going to open mid-July at Factory International. And it's
in Manchester.
Manchester, exactly, which is kind of a promenade screen-based experience. So you go through different rooms in a group and you are interacting with these stories, with this very, very interesting sort of experience around food. How do we actually interact with food? What's our values? What are our ethics? And it is a very new format, still very immersive, but at the same time not as sort of technological as maybe a VR or sort of mixed reality would be. So I'm really excited to see how audiences are going to engage with that. And yeah, so this is sort of different sides of the spectrum that work.
It sounds like Jakob's work is very much focused on ecology and the visual experience of throwing yourself into his vision. As what you just described with Marshmallow Laser Feast, there's almost a sense of education.
In a way.
Where you're learning more about the body and the impact of food.
It's still very story based, and it's using very surreal visual. So it's going to draw you in from an aesthetic point of view, very much. So it's not meant to be educational. It's really more through these surreal encounters make you think about how you interact with food, I would think.
And what response do you tend to see from the public after they've experienced one of the works that you've curated? What whether it's a comment or the way, the physical reaction, is it emotional? Is it excited? Is it scared?
I mean, very, very different, especially with the London Film Festival last year. I had a few works that were very, very emotional, very touching, talking about sort of oppression or marginalized groups. And I had a lot of very, very emotional response to that. And I was really inspired by those responses and to put on these works. With other ones, it's really more the sense of wonder, the sense of transformation. I think especially Jakob's work that I just talked about, it really kind of makes you think about how you interact with the world and with the environments around you. And I'm not only talking about sort of ecological environments, but also Jakob really aims to transform visitors with the work he's doing. I think they're really, really different ones. One that really stick to me was with my festival here in Hamburg, the VRHAM festival a couple of years ago. There were young kids coming. I think they just came just to don on a headset once because it was still super new back then. And then one of them took up off the headset and came to me and said, okay, now I understand why you say this is art. And that was really, really beautiful to hear. This is why I do this job, to be very honest.
Exactly. That's exactly what you want to hear. Going back to the multidisciplinary aspect that I think you mentioned earlier. Have you worked with artists where they've integrated other disciplines into technology, such as performance, fashion, design, music even?
Yes, I mean, I think this is what I love about the immersive genre or digital art so much is it is such a broad variety of different genres coming together. I mean, it's very rarely just one artist sitting in a studio and working on it. So you often have people from different disciplines, different genres coming together. And I just love this convergence of different disciplines. I mean, coming from a performance background, I have curated a lot of performance-based immersive shows, or especially with dance. There's so many beautiful works out there looking at this. With the use of AI now, there's all these new possibilities. So I think this is an area that I'm very, very interested in. Fashion is another really big thing, which I haven't been able to incorporate in one of my exhibitions yet, but it's something I'd be really interested to pursue. And then also obviously coming also from a visual arts background, so really looking at sculpture, painting, drawing, and how this is incorporated, I find super fascinating.
I'd love to have seen what Alexander McQueen would have done with VR. That would have been an incredible world to step into. I remember seeing that in that incredible exhibition that he had at the V&A with Kate Moss, and that 3D, almost like very early virtual reality with Kate Moss. Could you tell me a little bit more about your work with the BFI as well, specifically, and the London Film Festival, of course?
Yeah. So I'm the XR and immersive programmer for the BFI London Film Festival. And with that, we have our own section for immersive art in XR, which is called LFF Expanded. It always takes place in October. So this year it's going to be from the 11th until the 7th of October. It's running a little longer even than the festival itself. I'm always trying out new sort of setups, new layouts of the festival. We've changed locations a few times, but we always have our dedicated sort of space where we exhibit the work. We're going to be back at Oxo Tower, Barge House this year. And we're going to have a lot of different formats and different propositions for audiences to engage with immersive technology and new art forms. I can't really talk about the program yet. It's going to be announced beginning of September, but I can already tell you it's going to be really exciting and very, very different works from a very diverse range of creators.
What a fantastic venue as well. I
Yeah,
know
I
it
really
well
like it.
down there. It's a great venue. I hope you don't mind me saying, but you've recently been appointed artistic director for the new UBS Digital Art Museum over in Hamburg, where you are right now. Can you say what we can expect to see from this museum? How will this museum be different from any other museum?
So the new UBS Digital Art Museum is a purpose-built new museum, 7,000 square meters, 10 meter ceiling height. This is sort of the first thing that's new. It's very rare in Europe or across the world to have new museums founded that are specifically also looking at certain art forms. So this is really about digital art, immersive art. The main exhibition, which is going to be on for a long time, will be the teamLab exhibition Borderless that we're going to bring over from Tokyo, which they just opened in a new venue there. So you can expect around 25 different rooms with immersive exhibitions, a lot of projection mapping, but also kinetic art, light sculptures. It's a huge undertaking, as you can imagine, and we're set to open probably end of 25. So we have a little bit of time, but not a lot. So the building construction is going ahead, and it's super, super exciting to see that rising and getting finished. In addition to that, we're going to have a very big media facade that we're going to want to commission artists for, show new works. It's going to be one of the largest media facades in Europe, which is also a very exciting proposition for different artists. It's going to work in real times, exciting possibilities to work with. And then we also have a small space, like a gallery space, where we're going to show different exhibitions, changing exhibitions, emerging artists, established artists, maybe also residencies, etc. So this is the overall package and vision, and we really want to be a hub for digital art and new emerging media in Europe.
I was getting goosebumps with you just talking about it just then. It's incredible, and teamLab, what a major catch as well, because I know it's one of the most visited exhibitions in the entire world. Coming to Hamburg, it's what you've done brilliant. Such a bold vision there. It's fantastic. You mentioned artificial intelligence. And obviously, I've got to talk about this. Very zeitgeist in the news literally every day. I just ask your opinion on this. So it's obviously a very useful tool in terms of creativity. Some people say it differently, more in the traditional way, that it's more of a shortcut. Do you see it more as like this big open door to help artists realize their creativity? What's your view on AI or creative AI?
It's very interesting. I just saw a headline saying, I think it was on Art News, 41% of artists are currently working with AI in their practice. I don't know whether that's true or not, but this is a huge number. I mean, creatively, I think there's huge value and there's a whole new world out there. I've seen such amazing works recently using AI, but also critically using it in a way to make us more aware of the risks and nuances that we have to take care of. I mean, I'm just thinking about Karen Palmer's incredible work that uses AI technology and eye tracking to make us aware of surveys in the space, etc. There's so many beautiful works out there, be it as a sort of aesthetic tool, be it as a creative proposition, or be it really critically examining what's going on there at the moment. Me, myself, as a curator, I have obviously a huge, I don't want to say issue, but huge question marks around digital ownership, etc., and the ways in which artists are getting remunerated for their work and sort of ownership of rights, etc. I think there are so many ways, and I've heard really amazing talks and propositions on this and how to tackle some of these questions. I think our governments are not doing enough at the moment to really have the way for the right tools to engage with. So I have a lot of question marks. At the same time, I think creatively it's super interesting, and I see a huge push in artists really using this in the most meaningful and interesting ways.
Yeah, I think what you said makes total sense. And it's one of those things where artists, they will, very open-minded, they will grab new tools and push it as far, bend, push, break, as far as it can go, to break new ground in creativity. So
I think artists have to be on the forefront, and they've always been on the forefront of innovation, and they are. And especially with AI, I can see that a lot of artists really taking ownership of these things and also raise these questions about cybersecurity, about private data, etc. And if we have our artists being on the forefront of this, it makes me more positive in terms of the use of AI.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking about creative ownership as well, making sure that it's fair, democratic, diplomatic with, artists who aren't necessarily working with AI. But very, very topical. Different question here. A lovely question to ask, but what is your dream project? What is, whether it's a collaboration, what you mentioned working more in fashion, but is there something out there that you're itching to delve into? Money, no object. Time, no object.
I mean, there are different projects that I have in mind and creatively and artistically that would really entice me. But I think what I'm very conscious about is possibilities for artists and ways of distribution. I think if I can dream, it would be a collaboration of major arts institutions across the world, giving space for immersive and digital artists to work in that makes these works that often get produced very sort of site specifically or very strongly tied to a certain museum or certain gallery or arts institution to be distributed more widely. So maybe have a group of institutions or museums that chip in money, meaningful money for artists to create new work, and then to tour these things around the world to make people understand what's actually out there, because I think that's still lacking for a general or global audience. And I'm not only talking about Europe and North America, but really tour this also to other regions, be it Africa, be it Asia, South America. So people really engage with this art form, because I think this is something that hasn't been established enough yet, that there is a new art form out there. And it's not film, it's not theater, it's not visual arts. It's a new form, and we need new ways of distributing it, and we need new ways of educating to it, and also new ways of funding.
Yep.
And so I think that would be one of the things I'm dreaming of.
I love that. Such a multi-sensory approach to, this new art form. It's beautiful. What advice would you give to a new generation looking to move into similar work as yourself? A younger generation who want to step into working with art and technology. What are your tips, or how would you guide them?
First of all, don't listen to anyone telling you this is not possible. When I started my festival in Hamburg, literally everyone said this is absolutely not possible. It's not possible to showcase VR art, and no one's interested, and the costs are too high, and no one's interested to fund this kind of thing. And I did it despite it, and it turned out like this really sort of new format, and you have to be bold and sort of move into a new direction. And don't listen to people who tell you you can't do it. So this is a very general thing, but I found this very interesting to see back in the days.
I'm fully signed up to that. I think that's brilliant. It's almost that gives you energy to
it was
and go further.
Invigorating to really try and break new grounds and really see. Secondly, I think to work as closely with artists as possible, and really to engage with their practice as much as possible, and really think sort of holistically, and not only from one side. Don't only think from the audience perspective, don't only think from the funding perspective, but really try to look at different angles on how to work with an artist and how to show their work. Sounds very self-pity, but really try to be as true to the artist's vision as possible, without losing sight of your own vision, maybe for the group show or for the general exhibition.
Love that. Ulrich, it's been such a pleasure, and it's been a real joy. Thank you so much. I love your energy. I love your work, and it looks like all eyes on Hamburg for next year, especially. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.